this perfect weather to celebrate the vagina. It is so wet. You're feeling it all over, the wetness is seeping through you. So we're here all gathered to look at all these beautiful images and celebrate the beauty of the vagina. And I'd just like to take about 10 minutes, that's all Philip will let me talk for, about feeling your vagina. What I'd like you to do is actually to wake it up, wake her up. And when I say wake up, what I mean is to wake up. I do not mean wake up! Because that's a bit intense. And that's the problem with the way we tend to treat our vaginas in this society. It's all terribly intense. It's all about penetration. And what happens when you're about to be penetrated? Ladies and guys, just think about it for a moment. Think that you're about to be penetrated. What do? You go, whoa, batten down the hatches, prepare for penetration. And what's going on in your body? You're getting really tight. You're getting really tense. You're closing off. And then even if you do manage to be penetrated, what happens then? There is intensity. There's lots of thrusting. And there's more tension. And maybe you force an orgasm out of you and you're left drained. And you may actually find after a while you're feeling a bit flat. And often you then get a bit annoyed with your partner and you're not sure why. And that's if you can even manage the penetration. Because as a sex therapist, I get so many women coming to me with this terrible condition called vaginismus. And they've got this terrible problem because they don't want to be penetrated. And so what do I say to them, ladies? I've healed so many women simply by changing the language they use. And what I say to them is forget penetration. Ban penetration. Excise that word from your vocabulary. And instead, I ask you to use invitation. Because as a woman, if you wait until you're ready to invite, that is a completely different situation. Because that allows all your wonderful, complex, womanly, physiological and energetic processes to take place so that your body starts to soften and open and become receptive. And when that happens, the entire experience is completely different. And often I wonder, and you're probably wondering, well, if this is the case, because when you deal with your vagina like that, when you trust your vagina, when you're connected to your vagina, and when you're letting your vagina run the show, oh boy, this is so different to that penetrative, let's force an orgasm type of sex that we think of as normal in our society. So the question is, why do we think that that's normal sex? Okay, allow me to just go over the last 3,000 years of human sexuality in about a minute, right? But the basic problem was, in the West, we suppressed female sexuality for about 2,000-3,000 years. For generation after generation after generation, we raised our girl children to think that they weren't sexual, shouldn't be sexual, and if by some mischance they were sexual, well, what do? We would stone her to death, or we would burn her at the stake, or we would lock her up in an insane asylum. We did that for thousands of years. It's kind of a miracle there's any of us left who have any interest in sex whatsoever, isn't it? Okay, so, the night before her wedding, she might get a little talk about how men have their needs, and that would be it. Thanks, Mum, that's really good sex education. But what about the boys? Bless them, because if the girls aren't having a good time, the girls know nothing, sure as hell the boys will know even less. No offence to the guys. But men, boys, anyone who has male children, and I've got two, you know that about the age of about 4 months, they discover their penis. Right? It's just there, and they like to play with it, and that's all cool. And then they get to puberty, and they're like, whoa, if I play with that, it's got this lovely ending as well. That's even better. But, oh God, I better do it really quickly and furtively so that mum doesn't catch me. Right? So, you know, the boy is over all this time. This is what they were doing. They get married. And, oh, wow, I can do that in this nice soft squishy space. Yay! And the girls didn't know any different. Okay. So basically the guys would keep masturbating inside their wives. Yeah? That's what they did. They didn't know any better. So let's fast forward to the 1960s and 1970s when the West finally said, okay, sex is good. We should all like sex. Women should like sex too. Yay! But the problem was, the only model of sex that we had was that one. I call it the adolescent male masturbatory model of sex. Right? Because that's what it's based on. And there's 3 parts to this model. The first part is, you gotta be horny. Like, probably like gagging for it. You really gotta want it, yeah? Okay. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. Which is why we've now got all these women wandering around going, oh, where's my libido? I'm sure I put it down here somewhere. Like, where's my... As though it's this kind of thing, because they think they're supposed to be like teenage boys. And then, part 2. So part 1, you've got to be horny, gagging for it. Part 2, yeah, lots of jiggity jig. Yeah, you've got to be so horny, you just want to have a thrust in and jiggity jig around. Yeah, so if you don't like the jiggity jig, or can't do the jiggity jig, and this applies to a lot of men, because a lot of men have problems with the jiggity jig too, then there's something wrong with you because you're not a teenage boy. I just want to say that I think that teenage boys can be lovely. I have a 17-year-old and he's gorgeous. And I think his girlfriend is very lucky that I'm his mother. Anyway, it was so funny. We were in the car the other day and he goes, Mum, can I ask you something? I'm like, yeah. He goes, it's a bit embarrassing. I'm like, that's right. He goes, but I figure since you're an expert, I should make the most of this. So he did. Anyway, and his girlfriend's very happy. So where was I? So part 3. Oh yeah, this is a good one. So part 3, it finishes with an orgasm. His. And then it's all over. Yeah? Whoever said when the man comes it finishes? When people just assume all of this stuff. Right? So we've got all these people now who have problems because they're not orgasming. Or they're not orgasming at the right time. Or they're not orgasming soon enough. Or whatever. Right? And one orgasm. Please. Now you see, the thing is, because I don't know why, but for some reason my purpose in this lifetime has been sex. It was thrust upon me. Oh, I don't use that word. Yes, I do. Oh, I like it to be thrusted. Seriously, I'm not saying don't thrust and don't go for a good shag if that's what you want. I'm just saying if that's all you think sex is, you've got a problem. Because what happens over time? Thrust, thrust, thrust. Just like when I yelled at you, you don't want to listen and you're going to close your ears and over time you'll get getting really numb and you won't even notice I'm yelling anymore. Right? You tune out. You go numb. And that's what happens to our vaginas. And penises too. Right? Most vaginas in the West are numb to sensation. Right? Just as, you know, if you're listening to loud noise all the time, you start going numb to it. Okay? So, that model, which is based on adolescent boys masturbating, and is a very fine model for masturbation, but it's completely different if we're talking about partner interaction. And in fact, there's way better ways to masturbate than that, but I don't have time to do all of that now. Where was I? Going numb. You go numb. And so many women in our society are subjecting themselves to constant low-level vaginal trauma. Right? And over time, whether we're talking about the nerve endings, we're talking neurologically, or we're going to go a bit cosmic and talk about the energy, you're going numb. Right? And there's a strong connection between your vagina and your brain, and it's linked to creativity, and it's linked to the joie de vivre and feeling good. Right? So if it's numbing down here, sure as hell it's numbing up here, and the whole of life is numbing. Right? So what does one do about that? Well, ladies and your partners, you wake up your vagina. And how do you do that? Well, essentially, as I said at the beginning, you wait till you're ready to invite. And that will take time. Because the wonderful thing about being female is it may take a little longer. And like a fine wine that takes longer to be better. I don't just mean in age, although as a getting on type of a lady, I like to think of myself as a fine wine. But the thing is, if you allow yourself the time, then all of these wonderful things start happening to your body, right? And you might just start by wanting a kiss. And if you want a kiss, you'll know you want a kiss because your mouth will open and your head will turn to your lover with a kiss. Yes? And if that's good, you'll feel your breasts. Maybe literally, if you don't mind. It feels quite nice. Very important, ladies, to get in touch with your breasts. So let's have a little squeeze, everybody. Just a little caress. Go on. God, if you can look at vaginas, you can caress your breasts. Surely. They're clothed. You will want your breasts caressed. Yes. Stages. Your body's opening in stages. You're feeling it, and after a while, you will want to be touched a little lower. You'll just be feeling it. And then, and only then, when you really feel an urge for your legs to part, and you will say, come on in, darling, the water is fine. And at that point, he, and excuse me if I seem a little heterocentric, but for whichever your partner is, comes in, invited in, comes in and fills you. And there, that penis is in there, feeling like it's come home. Yes? And you are enveloping it. You are cradling it. You are holding it. And in that space, that's where the shift starts happening. In that space, you will start to feel a tingle. You will start to feel the energy moving through your body. You'll start to feel an ecstasy. And this is very different from a hard force orgasm that leaves you drained afterwards, right? As a woman, when we get warmed up, we can stay hot for a very long time. And you can get to states of high level arousal, of ecstatic states even, as you feel it flooding your whole body. And while you're up there, if you want to have a few genital orgasms on the way, well, go for it. Why not? It's all good. And what will your partner, assuming he's male, because I just want to focus on the men for a moment because we are often horrendous to the men in our society. We consider them to be these horrible animalistic creatures who just want to get their end in. Oh no. I've spoken to, I don't know how many men. I've done thousands and thousands of hours, one-on-one clinical practice, plus another 1,000 hours or so of running workshops. And every man I have spoken to, when I say, what is it that you love most about sex? He says, pleasure in my partner. The more pleasure the woman has, the more pleasure the man has. Because men really can't last for that long. Yeah? It's the women that can take the men on the fantastic journey. If you allow your partner, and excuse me if I'm being a bit heterocentric here, because it applies to same sex as well. Ladies, you can get on with each other, of course. You don't need to be told about the penis part. So if you allow your partner to pleasure you, if you allow yourself to go to these places, wow, you're both going to go on a journey. And this is a journey that is very different to what we normally think of as sex in our society. And it requires a fantastic connection between you and your body and your vagina. Because if for you, your vagina is some kind of foreign land down there, you are never going to feel this. You need to feel the connection. You need to wake up your vagina. So I invite you to go on this journey because it is a journey. It takes a long time to be able to reach those heights, but you can certainly leave behind the tortured kind of couplings that so many people seem to think of as sex in this society. It's like you're going on a journey. But it can be a tricky journey, so if I can help in any way, there's a lot of luggage, there's a lot of baggage to be left behind before you even get on that train. And I have a lot of, I can help. Seems to be my calling. I have the Tantra Fusion blog with over 160 articles. That's about 100,000 words written on these kind of topics. I've written a couple of books, and my third book, which interestingly is on female sexuality, it's It's called 7 Sex Gods, Sexual Re-Liberation for the Modern Woman. Hopefully it'll be out soon, because we may, touch wood, have got a publisher for it. And men, don't worry, the male companion volume will be out next year. Black Girl in the Bedroom. Better get the marketing right, don't you? Also workshops. I do Luscious Woman for the women, I do Luscious Lovers for couples, Black Girl in the Bedroom for men, and I also run retreats up in the Blue Mountains, which are really cool. What else do I do? I'm about to start the Tantric Lounge once a month, a couple of hours of practices and then socialising. And the Tantric Lounge is being turned into a radio show as well on World Something Radio, I don't know what it's called, 5th of September. That's also called the Tantric Lounge. Sex, Science and Spirituality for the Thinking Person. I'm a scientist as much as I am a mystic. I like to think, well I am, I've got 3 science degrees, so I guess I am. I've done an awful lot of experimentation on myself. Because you can't do this stuff unless you really go deep inside of yourself, to your vagina and beyond. And if you would like some one-on-ones as well during the week, that's what I do. I sit in my beautiful clinic and I talk to people. And I help them wake up their whole bodies, wake up their vaginas, penises, whatever bits you've got. Get into your body. And then you can start to feel the ecstasy. Thank you.